A state of emergency, it's a last resort to bring back order when lawlessness has taken a grip. After days of looting, over 70 people dead and billions of rands in damage. Are we there yet? It's ultimately a decision for the President to make, and while our Constitution does allow for it, it has strict conditions. Let's discuss what it would mean in a democratic South Africa. I'm joined now by human rights lawyer, Advocate Howard Varney. Howard, thank you so much for joining us. Most South Africans who can remember apartheid remember a state of emergency and the horror that it brought. What does a state of emergency entail in a democratic South Africa?
Ellie, good evening, and good evening to your viewers. It is indeed quite a tragic state of affairs that post-apartheid South Africa is now considering declaring a state of emergency. And yes, it is something that we all thought would have been unthinkable in a democratic South Africa, but I think the scenes that we've all witnessed over the past few days are pushing us to at least consider that possibility. A state of emergency in modern South Africa would be governed by Section 37 of the Constitution. It would be a somewhat different state of emergency than we saw under apartheid. There would be considerable checks and balances. Individuals would have rights guaranteed under law. Courts would be able to consider and rule in relation to each and every action taken under a state of emergency. But I do think that we have to really think about the existing disaster regulations, because many are saying, well, simply let's use those. And what I want to put on the table, Sally, is those regulations were designed to deal with a public health crisis, to combat the virus. I think we have to ask, should we be using a public health set of regulations to deal with the carnage and the lawlessness that we witnessed over the past few days? And I think we have to consider that question very carefully.
Yeah, because I think you've made the point to me that actually there's a lot more transparency around a state of emergency as it is in our Constitution than where we are with our Disaster Management Act. As you say, that's about a pandemic. We're also hearing a new phrase coming in this evening, and it was put on the table that the President can declare a state of national defense. How would that differ to a state of emergency? Does the state of national defense, would that fall under the Disaster Management Act?
So that in fact would be governed by Section 203 of the Constitution, read with the Defence Act. And it wouldn't in fact be a state of emergency. There would be no suspension of any civil liberties whatsoever. But the Constitution does give the President the power to declare a state of national defense when he is of the view that the army does need to be mobilized. And of course, this could be for purposes of defending the Republic from outside forces and possibly from internal forces as well. But it would not be a state of emergency. It wouldn't be a declaration of martial law either. So that certainly is a possibility. And I think many South Africans are wishing to see many more boots on the ground. They need to see some visibility. And for those in vulnerable areas where they have yet to see police and army, and they've seen terrible destruction and their livelihoods going up in smoke, they have a right to see boots on the ground. And frankly, whether this is done through a state of emergency, a state of national defense, or even targeted regulations under the Disaster Management Act, I suppose it doesn't really matter. The question is, we need a tailored approach to this crisis. And under the Disaster Management Act, using regulations designed to curtail a virus from spreading is simply not the way to go. And a lot of people, I think, are losing confidence in the approach. So we do need an approach that sees an adjustment in the legal framework as well as implementation on the ground.